Hello, my most amazing artists. Today we're ready to create our landscape. A landscape shows a picture of land, like mountains, trees, sky, hills, rivers, lakes, all that stuff. So we have our mountains that we started on our paper, and what you want to do first is take your marker and outline those mountains. Now, if your watercolor went past your pencil line, you want to just outline kind of the edge of your watercolor. Don't go on your pencil line if it has watercolor all through it. So I'm going to keep going on this and outline all of my mountains right along the edge of my watercolor. So if this is not perfectly on my pencil line, that's all right. I'm just going around the edge of my watercolor. And you're going to take your time so we're not leaving white space around our mountain. So the next thing I'm going to do is on the right side of my mountain. So let's look at our mountains. If I have my mountain, this is the left side, and this side is the right side. On the right side of my mountain, I'm going to extend that line a little bit like that. On the right side of each one of my mountains, I'm going to extend that line. Keep going. Extend that line. Extend that line. There we go. Awesome. Once I've extended that line on the right side of my mountains, I'm going to go to the top of my mountains, and you can start on any mountain, and you're going to make kind of a wiggly line that connects to that extended line. So I'm going to start on the top of the mountain, kind of a wiggly line that connects. I'm going to start at the top of the mountain. Maybe I want to make this one a little bit longer or not. It is up to you. I'm going to make a wiggly line that connects to there. I'm going to start at the top of the mountain, make my wiggly line that connects to my extended line. So I'm going to start at the top of the mountain and connect to my extended line. And I'm doing that on all of my mountains. Now this one's a little tricky because I have nothing to connect it to. I'm going to make my wiggly line down, and I'm going to imagine there's another line there like that. Okay, so now I have a shadow or a space I've created on the left side of all of my mountains like this. Once you've got those in place, you're going to use diagonal lines. Take your time, and you're going to repeat those diagonal lines in there to create a shadow effect. We are not coloring these in. We are using these diagonal lines to create a sense of texture in our mountains, and you're keeping these lines rather close together like that. Diagonal lines. Diagonal lines. So I'm going to fill those in with diagonal lines. I am not coloring those in. Take your time when you're doing this so that your lines, your diagonal lines that you're repeating, are not just like scribbling all over the place, but they're staying within the shape that you created. Once you've got your mountains all set with their shadows on the left side, you are ready to create the land in your landscape. So for the land, I'm going to make a line from one side to the other. It's not going to touch my mountains or my zigzags. It's going to be just below it like this, and it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. I like to make mine have slight wiggle to it like that, so it looks more like fallen snow. Then we're going to create kind of like another zigzag. I'm going to start on one side here, and I'm going to make a diagonal line that comes to the other side, and a diagonal line that comes back over here. And maybe before I hit the edge, I'm going to wiggle it back over this way like that. And now we're going to create some space in our landscape. So we're going to make it look like some things are farther away and some things are closer to us. In an artwork, you have the foreground, the things that are closest to you, which also appear bigger. You have the middle ground, which things are medium sized, and you have the background, where things are smaller because they're farther away. So I'm going to start with a small line here. Not so big, a little small line, maybe even smaller, like that. I'm going to do something in the middle ground. Maybe I'll make a line over here. It's going to be a little bit bigger because it's a little closer to me. And I'm going to do something in the foreground. The things in the foreground touch the bottom of my page, and they're big. I'm going to make it tall like this, maybe even bigger, like that. These are going to be my trees. So these are vertical lines. They are going straight up and down. And to make it my trees, I'm going to use some diagonal lines on one side and some diagonal lines on the other. This tree looks rather far away because it is small. So I'm going to use some diagonal lines. Maybe I'll stop so I have the bottom of my tree showing, like the trunk, and some diagonal lines that way. I'm going to start here. I'm going to do my diagonal lines and my diagonal lines. You can make them longer on the bottom if you want. I'm going to leave some of my tree trunk showing like that. And my one in the foreground that's closest to me, that's biggest, I'm going to do some more diagonal lines. And diagonal lines on the other side. Those lines should almost be going on top of each other. Maybe I'll make this trunk a little bigger. And if you want to make it fatter on the bottom, you can. Like that. So I've got my foreground, my biggest tree, my middle ground, my medium-sized tree, and my background, my teeny tiny tree. If you want to add a few more, you can. It is really up to you. I think I'm also going to add a little bit of texture in the sides of my mountain. So on the side of my mountain, I'm just going to do these wiggly lines that are on a slight diagonal, just to give it the feeling of some more fallen snow on my mountain. Like that. And my landscape is done. I can't wait to see yours.